Well, Mr. Mosley, thank you so much for meeting us here at Richland, Maine, here in Columbia for the Meet the Author event that they're having here. And it's such a pleasure to meet you because, you know, from everybody knows you so well because of all of your crime mystery books that you've had and just a lot about who you are based on the stories that you write. What does this mean now at 71, being able to carry this legacy on through your lifetime here today, just to continue encouraging people to read, not only read, but just be a part of the literary process?
Well, I think it's wonderful, you know, and it's so interesting, you know, because I don't even think so much about what people are doing. I know a lot of people read my books. I know we make films. We do different things. But I was thinking, I was in Harlem once. I was about to give a talk at the Schomburg library there, and I was down the street, and there was a Starbucks, which I don't think is there anymore, but there was a Starbucks at 125th, and I went in, and this young woman walked up to me, and she said, you that man, you that guy, right? That guy. And I said, I guess. She said, you know, she said, Mosley? And I went, yeah, that's me. She goes, well, yeah, I know all about your books. And I said, oh, that's great. And I said, which ones have you read? She goes, I haven't read any of them, but I know you, you know, and you're doing an event at the Schomburg, I bet. And I went, yeah. I said, I'm going to come see you there. And it was kind of a wonderful thing, you know, because there's so many different ways that knowledge pass back and forth between people. You know, some people read, some people play basketball, some people do both. And I just, you know, I'm happy to be a part of a kind of a larger event, of which, you know, writing is a part of that.
You know, one thing that I take pride in being here in the Midlands is Richland Library. It's because of the way that they engage people in the community to come and be a part of the reading process. Mm-hmm. I know that's important to you because at 34 I read that you took your first writing class. Mm-hmm. And that's what began your journey when you were sparked by the book The Color Purple. Mm-hmm. How impactful do you think it is when libraries such as this engage the community specifically? Because like you said, she didn't know who you were. She hadn't read any of your books, but she knew who you were because of your work.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you start to talk about libraries because, you know, libraries are heroic. Libraries are one kind of institution which keeps on changing and developing and evolving. You know, like if you're a blacksmith, you're out of business. Nobody's making shoes for horses. I mean, they do, but not a blacksmith is not making shoes for horses anymore. But libraries, you know, like this library, you know, they have things for people. They have cameras and stages and recording studios, sewing machines. They have everything that you can need. They have knowledge, you know, and the library is less interested. Well, how many books did you read, or did you finish that book, or something like that? They said, what do you need? What do you need to know? Well, this is how we can get you what you need to know. And I think that's wonderful because it's less, you know. This is the task. The task is you sit here and you do that. I love Tony. But Tony used to say, I used to talk to people, and they would say they read 8 hours. And I would say, 8 hours? You need to read for 10 hours. And I would listen to her and go, oh my God, I haven't read 10 hours in a row in my life. You know, and she's saying she did it every day. And I believe she did. But you know, what a library does and what librarians do is they support the people who come here. And they protect them from any kind of, you know, if the President of the United States comes and says, I need to know what people are reading, the librarian says, well, that might be, but you're not going to find out from me. Because they have the right of the freedom of speech. And you don't have a right to take it.
When we talk about freedom of speech and getting stories told, especially in today's climate, you are the product of a Jewish mom and an African-American father, and your story transcends even to this day right now when there's so many different narratives and stories and just a lot of information being dispelled. I noticed in your books you tell the story of current times throughout all of your stories. Your newest book, well, you have two out if I'm not mistaken. One is Touch and King of a Man. Is that correct?
Yeah, Every Man a King.
Every Man a King, that's right. I knew King was in there somewhere. Could you talk about those stories and how it relates to where we're at right now?
Well, both of those stories are the message is very close. I think I wrote Touch first, though it didn't come out first. What interests me in America is how people have problems, and there's no question, lots of problems for working class people in America, and 80% of America is working class, right? And they're all having problems, and they all remember times when things were much better, much easier, much more available. What existed you could be a part of without being terribly in debt, you know, without thinking that before you die, you're going to founder and go broke. And a lot of people blame each other. They'll say, well, it's because of those Mexicans. It's because of those black people. It's what those white people are doing. It's the Jews. You know, and people come up with all kinds of things. But they all have the same problems. And all of our lives would be better if we solved those problems. It's not like somebody's making money, you know, other than the giant corporations. And so both of these books are about answering that question, you know. In Every Man a King, my detective gets hired to find out whether this guy who's, you know, a white supremacist actually did the crimes that they want to send him to prison for. And he doesn't like the guy, but as he begins to research him, he still doesn't necessarily like him, but he realizes we have similar problems here. We have similar issues here. If we work together, if we work for each other, it would be a much better life. And the same thing happens with Touch on a more kind of universal and science fiction level, where people, you know, find out. They say, one guy will look at my main character and say, well, you know, I still hate you, but I no longer know why I hate you. You know, and this is a thing that if I feel that if we could work together, you know, if we could be together, then and we don't have to like each other. All we have to do is work together. So I don't like you, but you know, this thing weighs 500 pounds. You can lift 250. I can lift 250. Let's go. You know, that's what basically. I mean, I'm not telling you a story, but that's basically what those two books are about.
You know, when we talk about creativity and getting the story out and just kind of expressing ourselves through words, in this fourth industrial revolution that we're in right now, AI is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that is going to impact the future of creative writing when ChatGPT can do everything for you?
Well, to begin with, ChatGPT can't do everything for you. Secondly, you know, it's like saying, you know, if you lived, you know, like 10,000 years ago, and somebody just came up with the perfect hammer, that hammer would be very frightening to you, because that would change everything. You know, you're able to do things. This hammer is just as dangerous, and is indeed artificial intelligence itself. But so whenever technology changes, we have to learn how to work with it. We have to learn how to deal with it. Artificial intelligence, as far as stories are concerned, will be more about machines telling each other stories than them telling our stories. We keep saying, well, it's going to want to tell our stories. No, it's not going to be interested in our stories. It's going to be interested in another thing. I will say, though, however, the greatest example of the threat of artificial intelligence in the world is capitalism. Capitalism is an artificial system that has absolutely no relation to life whatsoever, that controls human beings. And our entire lives are based on the ebb and flow of capitalism. Everything. No, there's nobody. If the only people who are off the grid, we don't know who they are and where they are. And I think that it's very important to understand that, because that system is based on us. And that's just, and we can't escape it, but we might be able to deal with it. Anyway, that's the answer.
Well, I am tight on time. I got about 1 minute left. But before I go, I know. Before I go, I always ask everyone that I interview this question because I think it's important. There's so many other questions that I would love to have to ask you, but with my time available, my one question to you is your journey in life, where you're at now, when you started at 34 and before that. What would you say to your younger self about where you are right now, all the struggles and obstacles that you've overcome? What would be your best advice?
I would say, hey man, it's going to be all right. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. And, there are certain people that they're just making the wrong moves and you want to fix it. I don't really think I have made wrong moves. I mean, I'm not rich or anything, but then again, I don't want to be rich. So it's I mean, I wouldn't mind, but it's not a big deal. I'm living a life. I'm happy. I woke up this morning and I wrote for 3 hours. Can't beat that.
You can't beat that. My grandmother always said the best thing a man can do is to eat, drink, and enjoy the work of his labor, and it seems like you have accomplished that.
Yeah, all of them to the extreme.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Mosley. Thank you so much for speaking with Cola Daily.
Thank you.